topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show where we bring you the top experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Oh, do we have great shows for you today. I have become the biggest believer in what's called functional medicine. And it started with our great expert in Georgia who turned me on to functional medicine. And then we got your letters and texts saying, why don't you add a functional medicine show? And I got to tell you, it's hard to get on our show. But we found one of the greatest clinics in town. It's called Integrative Wellness FX. In fact, if you go to their website, it's www.integrativewellnessfx.com. And we have got Dr. David Morcom with us. Good afternoon, David.
Good afternoon. Thanks so much for having me today, Steve.
Welcome to your first show.
Yeah, it's exciting. I'm excited to share my knowledge and my passion of functional medicine, how it's helped me, how it's helped so many other people.
Well, we have got so much to dig into, but you are new and we're welcoming you. And tell people about your practice and your background.
Yeah. I've been in the allopathic system for over 15 years now, but I transitioned pretty early on in my career due to my own journey of health. A lot of people are in my similar situation. They've had their own struggles in health or someone that they love, that they really cared about. They went through the medical system. They weren't getting the answers that they needed. They weren't getting the help. So they sought elsewhere. And we're so lucky to be in an age where we can research these things for ourselves. We can seek greater education to learn. That's what I did. I was unrelentless in really just trying to find answers for what was going on, the people around me, and for my own health journey. So that's really how I came to functional medicine. I'm happy to go into more detail as well, but it's been a whole journey. I could go into it.
Well, we're going to do that today. I got to tell you, I've been now working with experts across the country, and I am convinced that people know their body. Sometimes they know their body better than a doctor does. 100%. And you go in and your doctor basically throws his hands up and says, you're okay. There's nothing wrong with you. Sometimes it's just take a pill. But when it comes to functional medicine, people come to you after they've already seen the doctor knowing there's something wrong. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, it's really common. And it's so interesting because so many people come to me from Mayo Clinic and these top institutions around the nation. And they're great places to go for certain things. And it's interesting. It's not because they are bad at what they do, is they have a different lens completely. They have a different education. They have different tools even to work with to be able to decipher and understand what's actually going on. They're looking at such a small little lens that sees just one thing that's fractionated from the whole. We're in functional medicine where we're looking at the whole body in a more integrated, holistic system that's very complex, that's integrating and talking to each other. And a lot of the things that are so complex to, maybe these top institutions, why they've gone to so many places, When we just do a traditional, holistic, functional medicine approach that looks at the root systems of the body, we can see that what is the cause of these inflammatory processes, and we fix those things. And a lot of the times, all these symptoms start going away just with those kind of simple, more grounded foundational work. And then, sometimes there's more complexity things that we have to do after that. But really in functional medicine, if we can really identify where the rotting roots are of the tree itself and fix those rotting roots, cut them off from the very beginning, fertilize from the ground up, all the leaves start getting green, all the branches start getting strong. A lot of times in not just even allopathic medicine, but even in natural medicine, you go to a naturopath or a doctor and they give you many herbs and supplements and extreme diets, and that can be helpful. I like to say that's like watering these browning leaves. That's going to help. And I do that as well. But we also want to go deeper. There are root foundational issues in the root systems of the body, like the digestion, like there's toxicity of our world, of all the metals and pesticides that are filled through our system, disrupting physiology. There's chronic infections, nutritional deficiencies, genetic dispositions. But we can look at some of these things and cut off these rotting roots. All the hormones, the energy, the brain health, the mood, the skin issues, whatever you may be having, go away. And the cool thing is it stays that way, Steve, because you actually address the root cause. So that's what I'm passionate about, is doing deeper work for a shorter period of time to really just fix what's going on so people can go back into their life. They can, not eat perfectly. They can, not take a bunch of supplements and still feel good. That's true health. That's true resilience. Why we're doing this deeper work.
I got to tell you, we started promoting your show 2 days out, and you would not believe what the top 2 questions were. The number one question is, what is functional medicine? And I was surprised. We got a lot of people who wanted to know how you felt about, and I don't know if you've been following it, what Kennedy has been coming out with, our new health, what you feel like with, they're trying what these colored dyes but those were the 2 biggest questions that people had for you. So I guess let's start off with, what is functional medicine?
Yeah, well, the political spectrum and discussion here, I think, is very interesting. I'm happy to go into that and be very candid and honest of what I feel and what I see and the good and the bad. But starting with the basics, since it's the first time that I'm coming on, just talking about functional medicine, I think the metaphor of the tree that I just used is very helpful to understand.
I love that
holistic way that we're trying to see things, because sometimes the functional medicine is even confused with, say, integrative medicine or natural medicine in general. I think that's beautiful. I love integrative medicine. I love herbs and these nanoparticles, these technologies, these different supplements and nutraceuticals we have. We have so many advancements in natural medicine that it's really inspiring in many ways. But just because it's natural doesn't mean that it's fixing the root cause of what's actually going on and what's causing the problem. So again, a lot of times we may be using Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, which are innately holistic systems in a way. And I would say functional medicine is just a modern kind of, rendition of some of these old ancient ways we looked at it. We just have a lot more new tools. We have advanced diagnostics that really tell us at a biochemical level exactly what's going on in the body. So we're not just guessing. It's not just my intuition, which, while that is really refined at this point, it is, very helpful. There's a lot of things that I can't know unless I'm looking actually at some of these more advanced labs. So we can go maybe into advanced labs later, but it's really integrating a lot of these different tools from the natural world, these advanced therapies, whether bioenergetics, whether it's new technologies, and we're combining in a holistic framework to really address root cause, the cause of this inflammation that's causing these complex chronic issues that people are experiencing today.
Well, I got to tell you this, since I've started really getting into functional medicine, I think about the people who walk in. I'll just use GNC as an example. Everybody's heard of GNC. You walk in, you tell them what your problem is, and they throw a pill at you.
Yeah.
When everybody's body is different. and you can't just throw a pill out at somebody. So
Yeah.
I think the places like GNC do a disservice to people who come in there, where when you come in, you really dissect what the problem is.
Yeah, and sometimes, first of all, places like GNC, you would think that they have higher quality supplements, and some of them are, but a lot of them aren't, and they're synthetic types of
Yes.
nutrients. For example, like we have cyanocobalamin, which releases cyanide in your body when you take it. It's a form of B12, but a lot of these are synthetic forms because they have higher shelf stability, and so they stay good for longer. So they don't want to use the more organic activated forms that we often use in more professional quality supplements, for example. So these are things just to look at, and making sure your megas are third party tested, of course, because the metal levels and the toxicity of our world does come into our supplements. But beyond that, what you're saying, I think, is very true, that a lot of times people are just trying to put a band-aid, trying to use natural medicine in that way. And I think that's definitely better in some ways than a lot of the medications. There's less side effects. There's definitely less destructive potential there, but it's not necessarily fixing the problem. And, a very common issue, people come in and they have fatigue, and, they might be diagnosed in an integrated medicine clinic, even with adrenal fatigue, and their battery pack is starting to drain. And wow, Steve, all of our battery packs are starting to drain in many ways. Life is crazy and chaotic, and we're exposed to so much stress, not just at a mental, emotional level, but at a actual physiological level as well. And so, we can give them these adaptogenic herbs, these tonics, these ginsengs and ashwagandhas and medicinal mushrooms and B vitamins and nutrients to try to regenerate the energy systems. We can give them bioidentical hormones even, to help boost their energy, get the hormone levels up. But really, what a functional medicine doctor is, and how you're actually seeing someone that actually practices functional medicine, they're not just using things in a more superficial way, is they're looking and asking, why are your adrenals and your hormones and your energy systems weak in the first place? Some people, it's, just trying to be everything to everyone and trying to do
Yes.
so much all the time, and trying to rush through traffic to go to a yoga class, for example, right? But, I think most people, it's not just mental, emotional stress. There's physiological things going on. Their guts are ravaged from all the glyphosate and Roundup that's filled with our food supply. There's just toxicity in metals that are being poured everywhere through the environment that we're going into us, that are fat soluble, and they poison the mitochondria themselves. These mitochondria, the energy factories of the cell that make ATP, and it's big bundles of fat. And these toxins are fat soluble, so they go into the mitochondria. That makes you can't make energy as well. Then the brain is one big thing of fat, and we have 10 times the amount of mitochondria in every cell of the brain than any other cell in the body, because it's so metabolically active. And so when we have, this big epidemic of mental health dysfunction, it's for obvious reason. Our world is toxic. Our brain is inflamed. Right. Many reasons. When there's gut inflammation, there's brain inflammation. There's leaky gut, there's leaky brain. These molecules are just coming in there. And, we can lower the inflammation with anti-inflammatories. We can rebuild the mitochondria with NAD and adaptogenic herbs galore. But at the end of the day, you always want to get rid of the thing that's causing the damage and inflammation in the first place, first and foremost. You get the toxicity out, you fix the gut, kill off some of the fungus or bacteria or the infection that's causing the damage. A lot of things just jump back into place without even needing to do other work. And, sometimes you need to rebuild a little bit as well, right? But it's always the best strategies, the biggest bang for the bucks, the most cost-effective, time-effective, and the only true way to heal long-term is identifying where these rotting roots of the tree is and actually cutting them off once and for all, and then fertilizing to really to have a strong foundation going forward.
Roxanne just wrote us, Roxanne in Plano just wrote, thank God for a show like this. I have been one of the ones writing you to have a show like this. I hope this is not a weird question, but I'm very curious if the doctor takes supplements himself, and what are they?
Yeah. I mean, I take all types of supplements, and some of my goals are to not have to take supplements and still live a healthy life full of vitality. But the reality is that our world is very stressful and very toxic. And so having some basic support there as maintenance is recommended for most people. And I can go through what that maybe basic maintenance regimen might be for almost everyone, and then what optional additions may be. But I also, I have a family and I have a very busy practice. And I know the healthier I am, the more energy I have, the more people that I can help. So I'm always trying to optimize and refine using supplements and technologies and hyperbarics and PEMF therapy and whatever it may be to optimize things. So
I, I got to tell you, David, I've got so many questions. This time goes by so fast, but we're getting so many questions. Here's one from Murphy in
do you want to answer
Saxon.
that last question first, or do you want me to
Yeah,
go?
I just want to get this one in.
Okay, sure.
She wants to know about cortisol.
Okay. Yeah, cortisol is released in the body when there's any kind of stress, whether it's mental, emotional, or physiological. And so a lot of times, we can blame cortisol, this fight or flight hormone that gets us up and going to run away from that tiger, for example. And it saves the day often, but there's a cost to it. It drains our battery pack, our adrenals, our hormones, our energy, our immune system long term. And it can lead into our metabolism, our thyroid being dysfunctional, leading to weight gain, especially in the abdomen, of course. And so, when people come to like lose weight, for example, instead of putting them on a fad diet or a bunch of supplements, there's things that will speed that up, and I'm happy to do that. But the most important thing is identify what are the things that are creating inflammation in the body, which is why your body's creating cortisol. Cortisol is a fire extinguisher to put out the fire. So we can identify what those things are. Then cortisol falls. Then your blood sugar regulates. Then your weight and metabolism and energy gets better. And it's actually going a little bit deeper here. So it's not just mental emotion. I'm into mindfulness and meditation and yoga or whatever it may be to downregulate the mental emotional stress. But people aren't looking at the physiological sources of inflammation and cortisol. So that could be gut issues, toxicity, you name it, all the things we've been talking about.
I know, David, you get probably a lot of patients that uh, go through a lot of stress, and stress can cause many things. How do you deal with those patients when they come in and they're all stressed out?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely was a mindfulness meditation teacher for many years, and I started a local group that's still going. It's called Wake Up Dallas, or Young Enlightened
Mm,
Souls. And it's a group for young adults to learn some of these mindfulness practices. So that's there. And I think having a practice to ground yourself is very important, of course. I do feel like we're in a place in our evolution as a society where things are so chaotic and crazy. It's hard for people to even do that. And even people are doing all these things, they're still stuck in this fight or flight. And some of this is just the amount, again, of the inflammation in people's brains. People's brains are on fire. And that fire of inflammation is all that restlessness and anxiety of having all these thoughts at once. So people can't focus. It's not like people with ADHD have slow minds. Their minds are just way faster a lot of the times. That's the kind of more pattern of modern society in a way. And a lot of it's physiological as well. And you could talk about one that there is metals all being thrown throughout our atmosphere. And that's a whole nother discussion. But 10 years ago, there would be very few people that would have actual metal toxicities. It was more rare. There would be some people that have, bigger, clear things going on. Now, when I measure heavy metals, which we do with every patient when they come in, it's not about if they have it, it's almost how many metals do they have and what kind of environmental pollutants and toxicities and the amount. And these toxins just go into the brain and create a lot of inflammation and stress, like I've been saying. So there is a lot of great things like CBD, which downregulate the inflammation in the brain that act on GABA receptors, the main inhibitory neurotransmitter of the brain. That can be wonderful. A cool, interesting, point here is that everyone's into these cannabinoids and THC and CBDs, and I think Texas just passed a law to expand this in Texas for more different conditions. So you'll be seeing more dispensaries and things as well. But the reality is that, these cannabinoids, we can make them ourselves, and we're not making them because they come from omega-3s. And everyone's omega-3 levels are trashed down in the dumpster when I measure them. So, we're supposed to get an omega score of a 10. Most people that come in are between a 2 and a 4. So 20 to 40% of where they need to be here. And so if you were just able to get your omega levels up, do these high dose, kind of clinical anti-inflammatory dose of omegas here that we use in practice over a few months, we just get this level up, then we don't need to be relying on all these external turmerics and CBDs and other things that constantly modulate our inflammatory response. So this goes back to some of the basics that I think everyone needs to be on. Omegas is one of them. It does everything. It makes the main anti-inflammatory compounds of the body, makes all of our cell membranes in our brain, for example. But also, vitamin D, A, E, K, but the vitamin D especially, it's our connection to the sun, connection to source itself. It regulates over 300 genes in the genetic code. It reduces all-cause mortality. There's nothing that reduces all-cause mortality, every cause of death, that's this cheap. So it just makes sense in many ways to have it in optimal levels. And the interesting thing about vitamin D, it's not even that we're not getting enough sun. Sunlight is the first step out of 3 steps to activate vitamin D. We need to go through the kidneys. We need to go through the liver. And our livers are so overloaded right now with toxicity that it's not cleansing the blood. It's not making our hormones and doing what it's supposed to be, including activating vitamin D. So I have farmers that are in the sun all day long and their vitamin D is still trashed. So very important as a basis of those two. Some people might have a multivitamin. I believe in NAC very greatly as a very cheap, affordable thing that most of the population can afford and add into their regimen. NAC is something that the FDA actually tried to take away from, the American population last year. I think it was about a year ago. And if they're trying to take away something, it probably works and it's competing with pharmaceuticals. They did this with NAD as well this last year. They've been trying to patent this kind of main mitochondrial synergist that just boosts your energy in mitochondria. And they can't really do this ideally because, a lot of these are natural substances. You're not supposed to be able to patent the natural world, but their lawyers keep on trying. That's for sure. But NAC makes the main antioxidant, main master detoxifier of the body called glutathione that is the shield to protect you from this very toxic inflammatory world. And NAC blocks all this inflammation that's happening right now. And so with, CBD, that might calm down the system. Things like GABA, L-theanine, magnesium threonate, anxiolytic herbs like passion flower, lemon balm, to answer your previous question. But we also want to block some of that inflammation using things like NAC, lithium orotate. But then further at a functional medicine level, we want to look at what is causing that inflammation in the brain in the first place. Gut issues, toxicity, fix those problems so you don't need the NAC or the CBD or whatever just to sleep and feel well.
David, God, this show could easily be an hour-long show. I've got so many questions that I'm not able to get to. I'm sorry for the people who texted us. David will be back again with us next month. David, tell people how they can reach your office.
Yeah, we're a telemedicine clinic here in Dallas, Fort Worth. So we do see people all over Texas, even throughout the nation as well. We have a range of functional medicine practitioners that I've hand selected. And I'm very proud of our clinic because we do the deeper actual functional medicine work to discover and treat root cause, where a lot of clinics, don't. And they're focusing on some of the more superficial things, which is totally great and fine. But if you're really sick, been dealing with complex chronic disease, inflammatory issues, autoimmune, neurological issues, gut stuff, we can fix it and fix it once and for all. So,
David, we'll see you again next month. Thank you so much. I wish we had more time. Thanks, David.
Of Of course. Okay. Take care.
And
Bye, everyone.
We'll be back again with you next week. We're going to go to a break.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.